Hi, everyone. I'm here with Thomas Rowley, Britive's Chief Cloud Architect and Head of US Engineering. And Thomas, I think you're going to show us an example of, I think, a pretty real world scenario that many organizations are either already have going on or potentially will be in the near future. So we're going to be playing a little bit with MCP and looking at a scenario where somebody like, let's say like a data analyst or maybe a data scientist has decided to automate some of their workflow, and they're going to be using an AI agent to perform some data analysis tasks. And this may be things like analyzing some new data streams for maybe making predictions or sales forecasting, something like that. And right now, we know that this is a challenge with MCP and that it doesn't really provide a lot in the way of authorization. In fact, I think there's really nothing there, if I understand that correctly.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say MCP servers and their configs today are kind of expecting hard-coded credentials, Matt. Um, and Bright is looking, through our platform and our CLI to make that more just in time and ephemeral, and ensure that the LLM has access to what it needs when it needs it, and take it away when it doesn't.
Well, that's great. And I think the other consideration we're going to see here too is it's not one size fits all with what we're looking at, where normally my understanding is you would give the agent some kind of identity that is associated with some permissions, and regardless of what the agent is doing, it's going to have the same permissions
Yeah,
every
yeah,
time,
that's
even if
right.
it doesn't need all of it.
Yeah, so what we've seen is, historically, we'll be demoing Snowflake here, right? And so if you're configuring an MCP server for Snowflake and you have multiple sets of users or types of users, some that may only need read-only access and some that might be, administrators within Snowflake, whatever you're asking that MCP server to do, it's going to have the permissions to do all of those things. And how do we make this more targeted, right, to the individual asking the question? And if they only have read access inside of Snowflake, they shouldn't be able to do administrative actions. But in today's model, they would be.
Okay, well, that definitely doesn't sound like a good situation. So I think we're about to see you give a demonstration of Britive's MCP server and how this can fit into that agentic workflow and help make much more granular, secure access.
Yep, absolutely. Ready to
All
go
right.
when you are.
Yeah, let's see it.
All right. So what you see here on the right side of the screen is a list of Britive profiles. We'll be looking at the Snowflake ones for this demo here. And if you're not familiar with what a profile is, it basically is a set of permissions. In this case, within Snowflake, it's a set of roles that would be applied to my user record in Snowflake when I click checkout. I'm not going to click checkout on this screen. We're going to let Claude Desktop do that for us. But I'm going to leave the screen up so you can see that things are getting checked out behind the scenes. And I'm going to show you here in Snowflake that I have public access. That's it. So I can't really do anything right now. But we're going to bring Claude up. And what we're going to see here is we have two MCP servers, one for Britive, which will allow us to do a few things, listing profiles, checking out a profile, and checking in a profile. And then we have an MCP server for Snowflake, which this comes from the public. It's just one we found. It's not customized to Britive in any way. And these are the tools that it exposes. Let's just start. So the first thing we're going to ask Claude to do is just maybe list my Snowflake databases. So what we're seeing here is that Claude is trying to do that, but it's getting an error that I don't have access. I'm going to say always allow so we don't see this prompt every time, but it's asking for Britive checkout tool to be used.
So it's figured that out on its own through the
That's right.
MCP tools then.
Yes. So it's listing the profiles I have access to. And you just see over here, right? We got the reader profile for Snowflake checked out by Claude.
That's amazing. So it figured out the least access it needed, essentially, just by knowing that profile and Britive was available.
That's right. So listing the profiles that I have access to, that's specific to me. You might have different access. It figured out automatically that it should check out the Snowflake demo slash reader profile. If we then go back into Snowflake and I refresh this page here, we'll see that I now have an extra role because that's what was checked out. And it listed the databases that I had access to. This is the Snowflake sample database. Not a whole lot you can do there. It's just their sample data they give you, right? But let's continue. So the next prompt here is list the customers in the customer contracts table, which is in the Snowflake customer data database. So the reader role does not have access to this database. So what we're going to see here, it's saying, okay, you're asking for customer data. I need to check out the customer data access profile. Go ahead and allow that. And allow the describe table as well.
I like it. So it's asking you for each new tool, basically, each time it's performing one of these actions. So it's letting you confirm whether or not you want to allow the model to essentially do that or the agent to do that.
Yep. So now we're listing customers. And it'll, this is just Claude doing its thing. It's summarizing all this information for us. And then let's try something that requires like account admin. So show me the Snowflake access history for the prior 30 minutes.
Interesting.
Trying
So
different ways to do that.
I guess this is interesting too, because you don't really know how it's going to try these, right? It's kind of like a human almost figuring out what does and doesn't work.
Yeah. So now it's figuring out that it needs account admin privileges to do this. And so it's checking out the account admin profile.
Yeah, I saw that pop up on the right side. So you can
Yeah,
see
it's
now that
over here.
it has its second profile checked out.
And then it's writing a query, getting back information that there's an error, and then it's redoing the query based on that error message. And always allow that tool as well. And now it's showing us the Snowflake access history in the last 30 minutes.
That's fantastic. I really like too that it pops up every time. At least this is on the Claude side. So you have that ability as the human to say, should I let it do this? I mean, I know we're always allowing here for this demo, but you could really have a
Yep.
human in the loop. And I believe on the
Yeah,
Britive side, you could do something similar if you actually had like an approval request on these accounts. Is that right?
that's right. So, if you could have administrative access with approval using Britive's, policy engine, then absolutely Claude would just sit there and wait for the human approval to occur.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm gonna tell Claude that we're done. Now it wants to do the check-in for us. I'll say always allow. All right. that sums up the Claude demo for Snowflake.
Well, that's fantastic. Can I ask for one more thing really quickly? I know it takes a minute sometimes for Snowflake to update, so we'll wait here and then let's look back at Snowflake to see that all the access has in fact been removed, because I think that's kind of a key point here too, is that the model actually basically turned in its own access to things.
Yeah. Yeah, our check-in process is asynchronous. It happens about every once per minute. So we'll give it a little bit of time here. Try refreshing this page. I'm still an account admin. That account admin has been checked in. So when I refresh this page, now I'm just back down to the reader
So,
role.
wow, that's amazing. Extremely powerful, and I think a lot for anyone that has these agents, and especially that's looking at playing with MCP and gives you much faster integrations and access to data sources internally, could benefit from something like this, eliminating all that standing access and giving more granular least privilege access to these tools.
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Great. Well, Thomas, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next demo.
Thank you, Matt.